You're thinking about moving to Texas, and I know that because you found this video, and that would make you, if you made the move, one of almost 1,000 people a day still moving into the state of Texas. Now, I came from Southern California to Houston, Texas, less than a year ago. We're coming up on 9 months now, and I wanted to tell my story of why we moved here, how we moved here, where we moved to, and hopefully it helps you kind of wrap your head around some of the questions to maybe be asking as you're thinking about making a move to Texas. That could be from within the state and just moving from, say, Austin or Dallas to Houston. That's a big move. Or moving from out of state or out of country into Texas. It's a different lifestyle. What we were looking for, and my wife, Samantha, and I really just we made the decision July of 2022 when we came out to visit with our family. Her mom and stepdad came out here with us, and her brother came out here with us, and we all looked at homes, fell in love, and ended up both buying houses. So we'll walk you through how we came to that decision, and I'll start with our why. We have two girls, 5.5 and 1.5, or I guess 2.5 now, and we didn't think that California was the place to raise our kids. Even though my wife and I were born and raised in California, and if I say so myself, I think we turned out pretty good, or I guess at least okay. And we sat and we asked ourselves one day, do we really think in 20 years that California is going to be the best place for our daughters to start their lives as adults, whether that be going into a career, starting a business, starting a family, whatever it is? Do we think that California was the place based on what we want? Everybody wants something different. And our answer was no. So that meant, okay, where are we going? It wasn't anywhere else in California. The political climate and the things that were happening in our schools and just overall, I mean, pricing, it has to be taken into consideration here. We just decided we're going out of state and likely going somewhere in the middle of our country. We have family in Florida. We have family and friends in California. Got family and friends up in Colorado. So we considered 3 states: Colorado, Texas, Florida. Colorado gets cold. Texas gets hot and also very cold. And Florida gets hot. So climate-wise, we were not really picking the best states, and that's usually what people ended up telling us when we were in California. And we told them we we're moving to Texas. They're like, oh, you'll be back because it gets hot. If temperature is the only thing that's keeping me in the state of California, then what are we doing there? So ultimately, we decided on Texas because it was center of the country. It'll allow us to travel back and forth. The cost of living was great. We still had friends and family here in Texas that are kind of all over, scattered, Dallas mostly, but we have some really close friends in the Woodlands by us. And we loved the forest. It is such dense green forest everywhere you go down here in Houston. And that was really one of the things we were looking for, was to change our kids' surroundings, get them into a better school system, because we did want them to still go to public school. In California, we could have paid for private school, or here we can, but there are some things that we like about kids going to public school and really kind of making their own way, cutting their own path, meeting all different types of people. I think the little bit of struggle that maybe happens in public school sometimes is a good thing. Now, that doesn't mean we wanted the schools in California were like 35 students per teacher, which is insane. I can barely handle 2. So here we're looking at like 15 kids per teacher. So that was another one of our whys. The school district, we're in Tomball ISD, and it's, if you look at the school ratings, it's a 9 out of 10, which we can't beat. And I love the fact that we have to drive through all these ranches and ranchettes to get to school in the morning, which is awesome. We're, I think, 6 minutes from school, so that was ideal. Going out and meeting people just out and about. When we were here visiting, everybody was super kind. even to the point that we were all laughing because, that awkward feeling when someone's holding the door open for you and you're like just a little bit too far. So you start to like kind of hurry up and run to the door. That happened everywhere we went. Everybody, it could be storming, absolute crazy thunderstorm. And even more so at that point, people will hold the door open for you. That's simple. For a lot of people, they don't really care. It's not a big deal. But the kindness of those around us, and I kind of said it felt like Orange County in the 90s when we grew up. People still mind their manners, and their kids mind their manners out at restaurants. The parks here, when we took our kids, the parents mind their kids. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Again, not for everybody, but it's what we were looking for. We kind of wanted to go back in time to the 90s and raise our kids to where we're not all glued to our phones, even though I'm here speaking into a camera. We wanted to refocus on family. And for us, that meant me not just being stuck in that California grind of trying to make enough money to get ahead and invest and grow and still be able to retire early. And I totally could have done it. We were doing just fine. We had a beautiful home, fully renovating that entire house, a business that was thriving, a big team doing over $100 million in production a year in real estate. But it wasn't what we wanted. We weren't fulfilled and happy because I wasn't spending as much time at home as we thought we could accomplish in an area that's emerging. Where we moved, I mean, shoot, just here in Pinehurst where we live, there are only 6,000 people. It's the entire population, which our neighborhood is probably at least 20% of that. So I don't want to get off track and go into metrics and where everything's at around us, and that's not what this video is for. I just wanted to explain my whys and then kind of go through how we ultimately came to decide here on Woodtrace, in Pinehurst, in Houston, in Texas. So with all those things, refocusing on family, ultimately 8 months in, that's exactly what's happened. I was able to take about 6 months off of running a business and constantly being at the office and get to know my kids. Being able to spend time with my kids for the last 6 months has been eye-opening. It's kind of refocused why I do this business, why I help families get into homes, and it's given me kind of a new energy and vigor to what I'm going to do different here than what I did in California. It's very transactional, even though I have incredible customer service in California. I really want to make sure that I adopt that kind of kindness and Southern kindness that comes with everything. Whether you're going out to eat, you're going to get your tires changed on your truck, everybody takes the time to ask you how you're doing, look you in the eye, say hello, and it actually feels genuine when they ask how you're doing. So as far as our search process, I am pretty familiar with doing searches for homes. So for us, it wasn't all that hard to figure out kind of what builders, that was the first thing we looked at, what builders, what areas did those builders service or build in, what inventory was move-in ready, what did they have coming up, and we ultimately landed on either KB, before coming out here in July of 2022, KB Homes, Lennar Village Builder, which is a Lennar like subsidiary, which is kind of like their little bit higher finish level than the standard Lennar home. Dries was on the list, but ultimately didn't end up going that direction, even though they are by far my favorite builder out here. And what was the other one? Toll Brothers. So the easiest way to put it, without going too deep into each of these builders, for you, if you're looking, make sure you're looking at the warranties, because it's not the same as, say, in California. Every builder's not held to the same requirement of, call it a 1 year and 10-year warranties. But the big builders are still offering incredible warranties, a lot of incentives, but don't get too sold on incentives when you come out. When you're looking at homes, look at the quality of the build, look up the reviews, hit me up in the comments or text me, whatever works for you. and just ask questions. I'm always happy to help and answer. Even if you're an agent, you're trying to figure this out on your own, happy to answer questions. But we decided KB Homes, their level of finishes was terrible. They had really cool designs in their models, but when we went and looked at the actual product, they really skimped on just the quality. Not necessarily just, I mean, there were gaps in all the cabinets, and none of the cabinets were perfectly straight, all kinds of stuff that couldn't really be, it wasn't just adjustments. It was stuff that was like inherently wrong because they were going too fast through this process of building the house. Buying new construction doesn't mean your house is going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think I've replaced something like 16 windows in my house, but that's not the builder's fault. That was the manufacturer of the windows. They just had some faults in the way that they were sealing them. So we ultimately ended up not choosing KB because of their finish, not choosing Toll Brothers because of their pricing, and bought a Village Builder home while we were here. As far as we we negotiated on it a little bit, and my in-laws ended up buying a Village Builder home as well. They're just, I think they're like 6 minutes from us. We go there and swim in their pool instead of building one in our backyard right now. But Village Builders, where we landed, and all that research was done before coming here. And seeing the difference in space. In California, we had a 1,100 square foot house, and our lot was like 7,200 square feet. We're on a little cul-de-sac, and we freaking loved that house. It was the coolest little ranch house, 3-bed, 1 bath. Ended up turning 2 baths into 1, which with 2 kids was not the best idea, so don't do that. But sold that house for $980, which is insane. It's insane that a 1975 construction home is $980,000. I mean, we did a really, really good job renovating the house, but it's still a 1975 home. Looking here and seeing that we could get a 3,200 square foot house for, in our neighborhood, just under 500,000 or in the mid 4s, and it's totally dialed. That was pretty intriguing. So when you see that in person, that's something to take into consideration. But one of the things that I made sure to have the conversation with my wife about and my in-laws about before we came out here and while we were here was we cannot move here. We cannot move out of state just to get a bigger house. Because if we move somewhere just for the house, ultimately we're probably going to be unhappy with where we live, especially if it's not, when we coming from California where it's 72 degrees year round and sunny, aside from this last year. I think it was just sad that we left, so it rained for like 7 months straight. But we made sure that we weren't just moving here for the house. So that meant that we had to fall in love with the area and everything around it, the lifestyle. But 3,000 square foot house, 15,000 square foot lot. If you're coming from another area that doesn't have that much space for under $500,000, it's kind of a shock. When you come out here and you start stepping into these houses that have extremely well done finishes, and the models will freaking blow your mind. Some of the models, especially going to like Dries, Perry Homes has an incredible product. When you go into those models, it will probably make you fall in love with Texas just through the house. So be careful for that. We went for new construction ultimately because I had spent about a year and a half fully renovating my last house, or our last house. I didn't want to do that again. It took too much time. It was stressful. I don't think it was that healthy for our family to be in a home that was being slowly renovated because you have the dust and chemicals, all that stuff. So wanted a new construction home for that reason. Also, the incentives that are offered on new construction homes generally come with some sort of rate buy down. So that helps. Say like right now it's at 7.25%. And the last home, we just sold the very last home on our street as a village builder, and it was at they had a national forward commitment, which you'll probably learn about, and that was 4.99% for the rate that that person just bought that house. That's amazing. We love that. In gated community, lake community, I love to fish. I had no idea when we bought this place that the fishing was so good in this lake, but we've been taking the kids down to go fishing, and it's a golf cart community. So most of our neighbors drive around golf carts, and when we were visiting, and it was hot as hell. It was like 104, 100, well, feels like the adjustment feels like 104 or 108, and that still didn't deter us when we came out and looked. Being able to walk through the forests here with our kids and play, and a lot of that stuff, we kind of thought that maybe it would fall off a little bit, that we wouldn't necessarily go and enjoy those things a few months in, because we tend to take advantage of where we live, and that hasn't been true. We still go and walk through there. Our friends come and visit. It's one of the first things we do. The parks are amazing in here. And all of the suburbs around here, when we were visiting different communities, they're open. And as you make friends or you just want to go visit the other communities, their parks, their splash pads, especially the Woodlands had some incredible stuff. All of that just kind of culminated to make it to where we love the being away from all the hustle and bustle, but still being able to hop on like 249 and get down to the Woodlands or Houston. Our flips are on like the southeast side of Houston, so that's proven to be a close enough drive, call it 45 minutes to shoot down there with no traffic. So went through my why, kind of went through our where. We found it through looking at, with Houston being so big, as you're doing your research, and this isn't the video to break down every area of Houston because it's like 2 hours from one edge of it to the other. Decide if you want to be in the city, if you want to be rural, if you want to be in suburban area, if you want to be in a master plan community, and then start searching based on those things. Again, reach out to me. Happy to answer questions or point you in the right direction. There are not that many big master plan communities that are still building. Like Audubon's a really good one that's up in Magnolia. We didn't see that one when we came out here. They've been building in there for like 3 years, but they didn't have anything that was. We wanted a lake community, and their lake was kind of small, but they have a brand new school being built. We have schools being built here in Tomball that our kids will likely go to a brand new high school. So with things kind of emerging, the where is important, but you just got to get here. If you can get here and get into a home and get settled, you'll understand the lay of the land. And ultimately, like Northeast Houston is not all that much different than Northwest Houston. But South Houston is very different from North Houston. So if you just at least split it and figure out if you want to be in north-south, and then figure out east-west, if you want to be close to Conroe, if you want to be close to the Woodlands, Magnolia, Katy. For us, being close to the Woodlands was important, and then for my business, being close to all of the newer developing homes was also important. And that put us here in Pinehurst. I think a lot of people, as they start to make the move, if you don't work remote, you're going to be looking at jobs. I have never heard so many people have random jobs. And by random, I don't mean bad. I mean, like, one of our favorite neighbors does maps for a living. I forget what that's called, but his job is to make maps of land and the topography and all that. We have a lot of oil. The oil industry here is huge, most of it being offshore. We have quite a bit on land, and I'd say we have at least 10 people that are like friends and neighbors that somebody in their family works in the oil fields. So that's something to look into. But for me, and deciding what are my kids going to do in 20 years, like my original question, I want to make sure that the job market here, the business opportunities here, the state supporting businesses, that all that was, I think, pointed in the right direction. And after being here for 8 months, I think it is. The state support, I mean, we don't have state income tax. We don't have a corporate income tax here. And starting a business is a lot easier than starting one in California, based on my experience doing it multiple times. And as far as jobs, everybody seems to be pretty happy where we live. I mean, our community is considered kind of middle higher end. A lot of people that live in here are still making $150,000-$200,000 in their jobs, and their homes are $500,000 to $800,000. So if you have a dual income household, your cost of living is really reasonable. Everybody tends to have newer cars. You see, I mean, we live in a neighborhood that has HOAs, so that's something that you also have to consider as you're moving out here, is if you want to be in a rural area that you can do whatever the hell you want with your property, or if you want to be in a community that is super well manicured and you be on your golf cart driving around and not worry about anything. Hopefully that helps. Some of the other questions that you probably are thinking as you're looking around is why you shouldn't move here. I can tell you my wife's major considerations was bugs, heat, humidity, and animals. Coming from California, where it's pretty much concrete jungle, we didn't have too many big bugs or anything like that. Sometimes it feels like we live in Avatar here in Houston because there are some crazy bugs. But her being is I don't want to call it afraid, but she doesn't like having bugs around. That hasn't been a big deal. Like, yeah, there's some big bugs, but for the most part, the only thing you gotta really consider is mosquitoes, and there's a mosquito season, and there's natural stuff you can do to keep them away. It's also pretty damn hot outside, and that is tough. It can be, and I think there's a heat index where it says oppressive, which I think is funny, but it's for real. Like yesterday, it feels like 114 degrees. If you can't handle that stuff, or you don't think you can, I highly recommend that you test it out, because humidity, at least for me, I don't mind the humidity as much as I mind really hot, dry weather, like say Nevada or even some parts of inland California. I don't like that. Allergies, whoa. The allergies here can be pretty damn wild. They hit us a little bit when we were here visiting last July, but we kind of were on the tail end of like the real allergy season, when like all the pine trees dropped their pollen, which we didn't know, but made it through it. Had some sneezes, some coughs, and ultimately we all survived. We had discomforts that were the same thing in California. We had these little, I think they call them no-see-ums or whatever it is, the little tiny mosquitoes that just bite the heck out of your ankles and your legs. We had those way worse in California than we experienced here. And same thing, that was something we experienced while we were here for the week looking at houses when we decided to move. And it's continued to be true. I've been bit like 3 times in the 8 months that we've been here. I've literally had like 3 bug bites. I've gone to visit our old house and all of our old neighbors twice and had a ton of bug bites on my legs. So don't buy into the hype of people telling you it's too hot, it's their bugs, whatever it is. It's just different. Doesn't mean it's bad. Crime rate. I know a lot of people look at Houston and immediately think of crime rate. That's all downtown Houston. Any major city, Chicago, LA, you have crime. I haven't really experienced it too much here, as far as like we have petty theft and that type of stuff. That's something we also consider. We wanted to make sure we lived in a safe area, especially having our girls and sending them to public school. We wanted to make sure that we were in what we perceived to be a safe area. All of that said, we made the decision that July, and we moved here in October. So if you're thinking about moving, you're probably wondering, how the hell am I going to sell my house and make the move and all that? Commit to new construction. Tell you that right now. It makes your life way easier. You have a date that you can set out months ahead of time. If you get lucky and you buy something early enough, you can have like the choice of all the finishes and everything with the home. We didn't get that part, but new construction, definitely the way to go. Make sure, whether it's me or somebody else, make sure you have an agent that helps you through that process. It doesn't cost you anything. The builder pays the agent, and it doesn't adjust your price, doesn't adjust the way you can negotiate. Builders have it allotted. It's called 30% or so of the homes that they sell are going to have an agent commission. So take an agent with you, because they are going to be able to help point things out. You're going to be there trying to fall in love with the house and seeing all the pretty things and all the aesthetic. Your agent's job is to make sure that contracts make sense. You're not getting some sort of shitty loan, because those new home sales reps are really good. They'll make you feel all warm and fuzzy and sign on the dotted line and get your EMD check by the time you walk out and you're driving to the restaurant going, shit, I think I just bought a house. So make sure that you bring an agent with you, and they have to be there with you the first time you go look at these houses, or they can't participate and be a part of the walkthroughs, the inspections, all that stuff. But that'd be my recommendation. That was our whole thing of moving here and not wanting to buy a resale home. And then selling our house, holy shit. I had to sell my house and my in-laws' house. Now, I've sold hundreds of homes. Owning a team where we're doing over 100 units a year, been a part of a ton of transactions. But it's a lot like being a doctor, and then you have to go be a patient. Mind you, I didn't go to school for as long as a doctor. I think my 6-month program is a little shorter. I was a terrible patient. And my mother-in-law was also a terrible patient. Only because we're both stressed out about making the move. We knew it was the right thing to do, but just know that the process is going to be tough. It's going to be stressful. But if you work with the right person, you're going to be able to make that transition fairly seamlessly. I would say find the agent in Texas first, and then have them find or refer you to an agent in California, because they'll be able to work hand in hand with that agent to time things, communicate openly. And if it's like, say with me, I have agents all over the country that I've worked with, or my team has worked with in the past, where we understand the way that we're going to work together. Those are the things that you got to make sure that you put in place. Because if you decide last minute that you're going to hire someone to sell your house and they don't communicate well, or they suck at marketing or negotiating, and they can't get you a rent back, you're talking about a bunch of stuff that can really screw this whole process up for you. So decide where. If Houston is it, split up that north and south. Once you decide on what part of the city you want to live in, break it up by east and west. And then you can start kind of taking little pie pieces of that area and figuring what builders are in there, what price point, what amenities you're looking for, what school district. And again, having an agent that's local, boots on the ground, is critical. Now, I didn't do that because I'm an agent and I thought that it would be easy. But fortunate for me, I have hundreds of agents that were a part of my brokerage in California. They were also out here, and I was able to make phone call, and the day that we were there, and they could explain absolutely everything, the ins and outs, what to look out for. So it was really helpful to kind of set our minds at ease. Going out, enjoying the home, going and eating, and being able to take 8 people out to dinner for under $100. All that was wonderful. Outdoors was wonderful. The weather can suck at times. I love rainstorms, so it doesn't bother me. And yeah, just overall, we've been here for 8 months. We've loved it. Again, my wife, 2 daughters, mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, all moved out here together. So having that support system was really nice, but we don't regret it. It has been a wonderful move for our family. We are happy to be here in Texas and happy to be here in Houston. I think anywhere in Austin, Dallas, all of that, they all have their kind of differences, but I think as far as development and the amount of people, Dallas and Austin are going to be far more densely populated because that's where the first kind of migration was of everybody from especially California. Most are moving to Dallas and Austin if you look at the analytics and the data. Houston is pretty much like third or fourth if you consider San Antonio. So decide what you want there of how densely populated you want it, and you'll see the difference in pricing. Austin and Dallas are definitely a little bit more expensive than majority of Houston, but it's kind of negligible. It's not that much. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I would love to work with you, help you find that dream home here in Texas, become a Texan. You definitely got to earn it, but you can find my information down in my bio or in the description of this video. I am going to continue to do walkthrough tours of properties here, and if you have specific homes that you're looking at, but you're kind of looking from afar, I can go out and take videos and publish those privately here on YouTube and send them to you. But that's my story, how we got here, why we got here, and I'll see you on the next one.